All right, Andre. I know you're a big Bray Wyatt fan with almost a year of his passing. Any thoughts of your favorite wrestler?
Well, yeah. I started thinking about it. It's been a year since his last passing, and then along with all the other wrestlers that passed away in the last few years. Like recently, we lost to Alpha, Sika. It's a few days apart from each other. Um, we heard about Sid Vicious passing away this past week, just a few days ago, actually. Um, when that announced, I started thinking about Bray. Because it's been a year since his passing around the same time as Terry
Yeah.
Funk. And, a lot of people don't realize that how much you appreciated these wrestlers until things like this happen. Um, I I was following Bray since his FCW days as when the Rotund brother
Mm.
and watching them going through NXT because my little brother started getting me into NXT when they started launching it on the network.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so that's how I got to well, even before the network, how you used to be able to watch NXT on the times that people would stream them on YouTube.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how I
so getting
discovered
getting
them.
to see them growing from being the rookie team that's gonna have the most impact on wrestling, and then seeing them progress on the main event scene. Seeing this character that was a little new, but also had some resemblance of like Taker and Mankind in the same character, but
Mm.
with like a southern dialect to go with it.
You never got
Um,
Raven?
maybe because I didn't grow up as much with Raven, I didn't pick up on that.
Okay, fair enough.
Um,
Fair enough. Oh, okay. At least you
but
at least
seeing
you
but
admit
seeing
that.
but seeing Bray progress that way, and then to hear that we've got through this whole thing of how I think he should have been treated better on the main event roster. I mean,
Yeah.
look at even his world title reigns. I think he could have been a better world champion if they really invested into him,
Mm.
not just giving him like the title like as a consolation prize, but something that they're saying, okay, we want to see how you run with this championship. We
Yeah.
want to see we want to see how you can carry it and the show that you're going to be in charge of. Um, because that's what those title reigns are supposed to be, a promotion, not a interim kind of thing, like how
Mm.
transitional champions are. Um, that's kind of sadly that's what Psycho Sid was. Even though he was a big guy who was ridiculously large, athletic at the time that he was. Um,
That dude was a
that's
definition
all he
of
was.
larger of life, just like Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan.
I think and that was the problem. I think if it wasn't for the Hogan politics, you probably could have seen a better booking for Sid Vicious because it was always when Hogan was gone that he was allowed to be the champion. It wasn't until
Yeah.
Hogan was gone in WWF that he got to be the world champion. It wasn't until Hogan left WCW that he got to be the world champion. And by then, there wasn't really much of WCW to talk about anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's
Fortunately.
but then having Bray go through all that career growth, only for it to be taken away between Goldberg, bad booking with Randy Orton, and then COVID happened, and then he got
Yeah.
released, and it's like, wow, how do you release somebody that was a main event with all these mid Carter jobbers? Like
Yeah.
that's who you're supposed to release when they're not drawing anymore, the jobbers. But how do you release a guy who you propelled to the main event scene?
And he was drawing
Um,
money. He must have been drawing money for you.
oh yeah, definitely. And then to hear he had this comeback that he was prepping for him. Like I was there at one of the SmackDown and Raws where after he returned, where he did his little segments, right? So it was cool to be a part of that because you got to
Mm.
be a part of the Fireflies again. Um, and then not knowing that he was having health issues, that hits her more hard at home because you see a guy like Bray, and I remember seeing all the different tributes to him. Otis was saying if a guy like him who's ugly like me can
Mhm.
make it to the wrestling world. And he's like, yeah, sure, he has a legacy of a family, but it's like if a guy like him was allowed to be in the wrestling, then I could make it. That's what Otis's was. Um,
Yeah,
um,
that's true. If a guy like Otis could make it,
yeah.
anybody can make
Um,
it.
so hearing that he had passed away, it's like, damn, how does a guy that young? It was like with the Eddie thing. I didn't know about all the underlying diseases. I didn't know his story. I knew he had addictions when he passed away because he brought them out
Right.
because of Brock in his promo, but I didn't know the extent of things.
Yeah.
I didn't know going back to WCW. I grew up more on the World Wrestling Federation. So
Yeah. You
the only
thought
way
it was just 2000
I, I
the
didn't
problem
know
started.
I didn't know about WCW until I started watching the libraries.
Right.
Um, and the only other death that impacted me personally besides Bray's was Eddie's. So when
Yeah.
they did the show for Bray, it's like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm watching the show. And this is tearful, but it's like okay, I can make it through. And then they brought the chair out. I lost it at
Mm,
that point. I'm like, damn, man, you turned it on. You turned on the
yeah.
waterworks. You bastards. Um, the one with Eddie's tribute. I didn't see that Raw because I didn't know anything about it. Like everybody at school kept saying, "Oh, hey, Eddie passed away." I'm like, "No, I just watched SmackDown." Like I was thinking that it was real. The whole
Mm.
concussion thing. Like, no, he just has a concussion. He'll be fine.
Oh
This is
yeah, I remember
because
that.
I didn't know that, right? So I didn't know that it happened because everybody already saw it because it was announced and et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't have cable anymore at the time. I was always watching UPN. So I had to
Mm,
wait until SmackDown.
damn.
I didn't know about the dirt sheets I could have looked up for the spoilers of SmackDown back then.
Right,
So I
right.
didn't know what all happened.
Oh, so you
I'm
didn't
like,
know
no,
that you didn't know the
no,
website's on.
no, right. So at that time, I'm like, oh, okay.
Damn. So
I
you
was like,
needed
oh,
to
okay,
wait.
yeah. And then I watched SmackDown. I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only way I could have watched Raw is if I watched the back then the recasting on Telemundo. That's
Oh,
what they used to have the Raw shows on Telemundo at the time
yeah. With the Spanish subtitles.
because the Spanish announcers were doing it.
Yeah.
So I see the show. I'm like, no way, man. Eddie did die. What the hell happened? And I'm crying along with them. But the one that really hit me the most while watching Eddie tributes was the Raw one. Because I'm seeing all these superstars crying. It's not like the SmackDown. The SmackDown one is Batista giving his heartfelt speech, and I'm crying because of him. I'm seeing all the other wrestlers cry. But they shot that episode so well to get people to tear up. You don't see it anymore when you watch it on Peacock. They took this very important scene out that is going to turn the waterworks on if you watch it right. If you watch it on
Right.
YouTube, you'll see it. So Vince does his opening monologue. He tells everybody that Eddie Guerrero passed away. You're seeing the camera pan to all his friends and his family in the cast. You're seeing the camera pan to the audience, so people are sad. And then they do the ten bells,
Yeah.
the silence. The very last shot you see before the video package starts, that they don't show on the Peacock anymore, but it's on YouTube, is this kid who was about our age at that time, crying because Eddie Guerrero passed away, and his mom is comforting him.
Oh
And as
yeah.
soon as it shoots to that kid, I'm like, damn it. I'm crying along with him.
I remember that.
You can't
Do.
you can't help. You can't help but turn on as soon as you see that shot because damn, you feel like that kid. If you were in that audience, you would have been that same kid at
That
that
was
time because
us.
you were that's how it felt.
Yeah.
They don't show it anymore on Peacock. They didn't show it anymore when they moved it to the network, all those episodes. I'm like, why
Mm.
would you not keep that there? The last person you see is JBL. I'm like, why JBL?
Guy that he
Why
was
is why
spewing
is
with.
he the last shot before we see this tribute to Eddie? Of all the characters, man, he could have kept on Chavo and Eddie and Ray. I mean, on Dean, Chavo, Ray, Chris, that would have been fine. But
Vicky, yeah.
why are we looking at JBL before we see this tribute to Eddie? Like, no offense, but
Wow.
I can't say that same thing about Owen because even though I kind of watched it back then, I didn't have that connection with Owen that
Right.
I had with Eddie. I grew up with Eddie because when I didn't have cable, I still had UPN. I still had SmackDown on Channel 50.
Yeah, Eddie Guerrero was like he was the Jeff
I
Hardy
got
for us
I
at the
got to
time.
see Eddie from SmackDown in the 2000s to the few times we did have cable on Raw. Then to see him from the SmackDown 6,
Mm.
seeing him and Chavo capture those tag titles as Los Guerreros, seeing them win that US title, seeing them win the tag titles, seeing those segments that he had, those fucking hilarious ass segments, man.
Yes,
Seeing
yes.
that magic that I was Eddie. And
Those
then
video package during like SmackDown that we would get with Eddie Guerrero and Chavo would go to some lady's
yeah,
house to fix the
yeah.
pool. That was straight comedy. You know,
The
gosh, the great times.
Montezuma's burrito on Big Show. The fact
Oh
that
yeah.
the fact that he sprayed him with that stuff also.
Was that
Um,
real crap?
nah. Well, you would have to ask the fans in the audience that were there because
Yeah, how
you know there's
how has
gonna
that
be
not
some
been talked about?
you're gonna have some trolls and you're gonna have some real people. You don't know who the hell you don't know who's gonna be honest about it when you go on YouTube and check in the comment section about it.
No person would have to be the Big Show, but even then, is he even going to tell the truth as well? So I
Uh,
I feel like that would be a huge payday for the Big Show, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that would have worked out. So for me, like Eddie Guerrero was a heavy hitter for me, but the one I cried is the one whose name I can't even pronounce no more. El hijo de Pero Aguayo.
Mm.
The Pero de Mal, like, bro, he was when I was wrestling, he was the guy. Like, he was the guy I wanted to face. He was the guy I wanted to be part of the group. That was my bullet club. And well, unfortunately, when I hurt, I was hurt with my back, with my herniated disc. I was like, once I found out that he passed away, like that dream was like, damn, like that was my goal was like to try to meet him, work with him. I wanted to be part of that group. I wanted to be under his wing, and he's gone. And I was so bummed out. Like, bro, like I felt like my side girl, dumped me that week. That's how I felt. Oh my gosh, I was so heartbroken. And it was one of those things because it was like because he was a luchador, and it was not like not a lot of people I'm not like would relate to me. Like not a lot of people knew, like people knew he passed away, but nobody was like, "Oh yeah, I know who he was, but I'm not really a fan of him." I was a fan of him. I was still
Mm.
watching Triple A at that time. And as soon as he passed away, I gave up on Triple A. I gave up. There was no point. He was the guy. He was Triple A. I almost gave up on Triple A until he showed up in 2011, I think, when he showed up against El Macias or Dr. Wagner, whoever he started a feud with. That's where I was like, oh, hold on, what's going on here? And I'm like, I heard of you. I'm like, I think you used to work at that one company. And then I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, that's where I started watching it because at that time I thought he was like that was their version of the NWO, like going from WCW to WWE. That's the way how I looked at it. And I was like, whoa. But obviously at that time I was always watching Triple A, but I was watching uh more focused that year because I think it was Triple Mania because of TNA, Jeff Jarrett and all that stuff. And it was leading up to that pay-per-view, and that's when Beto then Mal showed up and all that around that time. So um or maybe it was a year after that. I don't quite remember. So Yeah, and after that, I was just started following Triple A a lot and following. I even got a shirt, and my mom donated the shirt. It had the Beto the a while's face and the year that he was born and passed away. But my mom said she donated because it was too big. It was a 2XL. And I was like, I could have framed it, had it on my wall or something. But no. But that guy, that's what made me who he was for you for Bray, who Bray Wyatt was for you, that a better than Wyatt was for me, if that makes sense. If I said that right. So
Yeah, I think the thing that made it more impactful was how young both Bray and Eddie were for me.
yeah.
And then not knowing they had underlying diseases they were hiding from everybody
Mm,
because they were trying to like just I'll just toughen it out. When I started looking more into it about Eddie's situation, though, okay, so it was a car accident that caused him to be addicted to painkillers because of the
yeah.
way the way the body reacted and the way he was hit in the car. So I'm guessing because he stayed clean and he would only take certain painkillers, that his body was now in withdrawal, needing to not having the drugs in the system. It needed pain release, and he just wasn't going to give in because you know what? No, I'm going to be sober. They were even saying that Eddie wouldn't even drink beer. He wouldn't
Mm.
even have any alcohol. That's how dedicated he was being to being clean. He
Do you
didn't want any. He didn't want any form of addiction. Not even caffeine to get him through a day. He was just trying to be as safe and natural as possible.
do you think the withdrawals could have gotten to him?
They were because well, not that they were, but you were starting to see signs of it, and he was like doing what he could to stay away from the the drugs.
Yeah.
But because he had taken so many, the way that Jr. said he found him that year in 2002, like so doped up from the drugs, um, that's likely what caused his heart to enlarge and the veins to have a hard time pumping enough blood.
Mm,
That's a one. That's a wound up his life. But it's crazy because if you look at it now you'll actually see the signs that you didn't notice back then. Look at him in 2003, going into 2004. He's got color on his skin.
mm,
But after that championship run, especially around that time, JBL botched that chair shot, and while he was raising his forehead, he had the razor still kind of close and ended up cutting deeper because didn't time the chair shot, and
mm.
Eddie didn't time it enough to cover himself that he ended up pushing the blade further in, and that's why that Judgment Day he's spilling that blood out of his forehead because he cut the vein.
Damn.
So that's why he had those stitches for a while, and I always thought that was part of the why he passed out in the ring from the
Mm.
from the pretend heart attack. But now I think I'm about to say, man, was it a fake thing or was it because at that time his health was starting to show signs of not having the drugs that wanted in the system in order for him to stop feeling pain. Because then you all those interviews afterwards, Kurt Angle was saying how he was constantly in pain. Booker T was talking about how he was constantly in pain. There was times where in the middle of the match, Eddie was telling like, don't, he's like, ow, ow, he was telling, he was trying to tell, and he would sometimes piss them off because they don't know what the hell was wrong with him,
Mm.
and he wouldn't really disclose it. And then once they found out of his death, they're like, oh shit, he was trying to tell us, but it's like, damn it, and that what he would say, like, I wish Eddie selfish and just told us what his problem is, and we would have gotten him the help he needed.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have kept him longer, but
It was like Eddie knew he had two options. It was either he comes out and tells everybody that, hey, I have an issue, and they're gonna force him to retire,
yep,
or he keeps going till he can't anymore. Because like you just said, he wanted to be clean. He wanted no addictions except for one. and that was wrestling.
And then Bray, almost the same thing. I didn't know until JoJo had talked about it that he was wearing a heart monitor,
Mm.
not just a heart monitor, but one with a defibrillator attached to it. So if he
Damn.
ever had a had a hard problem in that moment, it was it that defibrillator he was carrying is like those new insulin pads that diabetics have to wear. That
Oh snap.
so that they don't forget, so that they don't forget to take the medicine, it automatically injects it for you. He's wearing it throughout the day until you start feeling low blood pressure, and
It
it
just
injects
goes.
the system into it.
Wow.
So that's what that defibrillator was that Bray was wearing under his shirts all the time.
Damn.
And the day that he passed away, said he took it off, and they were like, "Wait, should you do it? Should you do it?" But it's not going to hurt me. It's fine. I mean, he passed in that moment, but it was like he was trying to feel comfortable for a few minutes
Mm.
because he was feeling uncomfortable that he's wearing this almost a timer that's telling him your time is limited. Body. So he wanted to take a nap where he felt completely comfortable, and unfortunately, when he did that, it was like try to think of a movie or a scene. I know it's relevant to something I've seen before, where it's like I'll be fine and don't worry about me, and then the next moment that person's gone.
Mm.
I know I've show or a movie like this kind of scenario where they're like, "Oh, are you sure you should do this? It's not gonna hurt me. It's fine. I'll be fine." And then the next morning they find him gone. Uh,
Right.
but if you're now starting to listen to those podcasts of those two specific wrestlers, maybe even the ones that you heard had underlying diseases and passed away over the last few years, especially in the case of Eddie and Bray, if you watch things leading up to before their passing, you're gonna start seeing the signs that people were talking about.
What signs are those?
Like in Eddie's case, you've seen him. He's got less color in his skin.
Hmm.
The months and like when it's obvious when he's got a spray tan on versus a natural tan.
Yeah, I
And
noticed that. I noticed that he was getting more spray tans in the late 2005.
but even yeah, exactly. So those segments, he had a different color that he did in his match.
Mm.
In his match, you can see him very discolored. Like it's to show signs of the whatever lack of blood being flown through his heart was starting to show in the matches. How pale he would look sometimes. Um, and it's weird because if you watch WrestleManias or the pay per views beforehand, like when he won the title against Brock, he's red. He's got red when he's after his match because of how much his body is winded from the whole
Yeah,
match. So why
and
is he
he's
so
pale.
pale?
Yeah, yeah.
Why is he so pale after some of the other matches? Before his passing, it's because of the lack of blood that was flowing through his body at that point.
Damn.
And as I said, all these
It's
other,
gonna be difficult to watch Eddie Guerrero's matches now. Like just to
but
go back, it's gonna be difficult to watch them.
and then again the podcast, all these other wrestlers that did interviews are saying they didn't know it. They knew there was something wrong with Eddie because he was constantly getting bothered by touching him, not because he don't touch me, like, but oh my god, that, like, wait, Eddie, I barely touched you. What do you mean it hurts? What hurts? In the middle of the match.
Mm.
I don't know if it's because remember SmackDown is pre-taped, so they probably
Yeah.
cut the mics. They probably cut the mics out during those moments when little Nate would hear Eddie saying things, or Kyoto or Brian Hebner would probably hear Eddie saying certain things, and they would probably say, "Hey, Vince, cut the mic out," while calling
Mm.
spots. You couldn't do that on Raw.
Yeah, that's true. And
So it was easy.
I felt
It
like
was
that's why
easier
Eddie
to hide
Guerrero
it
was
that way
on
for
SmackDown.
SmackDown
Yeah, that's why I always thought.
or in house shows.
Yeah. I always thought that's why Eddie Guerrero was on SmackDown because of it was tape and it was easier and safer for
So
Eddie
it
Guerrero.
was definitely to his benefit.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about this until after listening to Maven doing his podcast about how different Raw and SmackDown were taken care of. So when I did that and I started doing the math, with Eddie and then with Bray, I'm like, wow, okay, so there was a lot of stuff being hidden.
Mm,
They some stuff. They were probably using old school stuff to hide anything Bray might have been dealing with, going through. You would have noticed it because they were doing a good job of the editing.
yeah. Damn. Well, RIP to all the great legends that we lost this year and all throughout the years in the past in professional wrestling. Because there's so many wrestlers that it sucks. Because these are we just talked about our favorites for a quick talk, but there's so many guys that passed away that have families that people don't even talk about. And like I said, Andre, I don't even think you knew El Hijo de Pedro de Aguayo was my favorite wrestler for like from 2009 to 2015 when he passed away. You know what I mean? Like I'm no ever didn't even knew that. My co-host didn't even knew that was my favorite wrestler for those 6 years, and he was a luchador. And the fact that it took me another 7 years, 10 years to talk about him on my own podcast, whereas because it's like there's that's how crazy of a professional wrestler can impact your life.
Like what we're saying, these guys, and somebody could have been a fan of Crash Out. Somebody could have been a big fan of
Yeah,
Test, and they didn't get
facts.
that. They didn't get to see that same tribute for
Yeah,
them. We got to see like for Eddie or for Bray or for
yeah,
Dusty Rhodes.
yeah. And it sucks because, like you said, like it's just like here's a quick thing, and it's like, damn, where's my video package? Because this guy was my favorite wrestler. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
should always make a video package. If you don't have time to air it on television, we got YouTube. You know, we got YouTube. I'm pretty sure they have enough employees to gather as much video package or videos, photos, and make a video package and upload it because clearly
Like
this
for
person has a
and,
fan.
and look at Bray's case. They flew Luke Harper or Eric Rowan in. They flew
Yeah.
Eric Rowan in, who was still with AEW at the time, to stand there with Braun Strowman because they were they were part of the family.
And you, like you said, Tess. I was a huge Tess fan. I felt like Tess should have been the guy for ECW. I felt like he should have been the guy for TNA, but for some reason he never had the opportunity. And then when he passed away, I'm just like, that sucked. It sucked that he passed away, and it sucks I don't get a video package. It sucks that I don't get a playlist of my top favorite matches of Tess. You know, it's the same thing back to the Pero Aguayo. Where's my top 10 list of favorite matches? You know, and that's just like again, this is just us. There's so many wrestlers that just so many fans are just flipping through the channels and like, who's this guy? It could be a Funaki. It could be Otis that's saying, "This is the guy that made me watch wrestling." It's
Yeah,
never that it's never most cases, yes, it's usually the top guy in most cases. But I remember, yeah, Triple H and Kane got my attention, but I remember Scotty 2 Hotty was the reason why I wanted to be a WWE superstar. It wasn't because of Triple H, it was because Scotty 2 Hotty.
the worm.
The worm. This guy is getting you're telling me he's making money doing the worm? So where do I sign up? You know what I mean? Well,
Yeah,
you know, it's just it's stuff like that. We and then hey, you know what? Oh, I did do the worm. Oh snap! Did I tell? Oh, bro, I did do the worm. So back in 2012, I was refereeing right for like a show down in St. Louis, and I ref. The match was Scotty 2 Hotty versus Raven, and they told me their spots, blah blah blah, cool. And after the match, Raven was like, he took the bump, right? Did the took the worm from Scotty to Hottie. Boom, 1, 2, 3. As soon as I hit the 3 count, Raven's like, "Don't go anywhere, ref. Stay here." I was like, "Okay." And I go and ring the bell, raise Scotty to Hottie. He's like, "Don't go anywhere. you're gonna do the worm with me. I'm like, what? He's like, you're gonna do the worm with me. He's like, and then he starts getting the fans like cheering up. And he's like, yeah, I can't do the worm. So I do the WORM. Instead of doing the worm, I did the Ric Flair struck. And then everybody started laughing. And he's like, no, 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 do the worm, do the worm. And I was like, all right. So I did the worm and I went woo, woo, woo. And I did the chop on Raven and Raven sold it. And then Raven's like, hey, pick a kid to get in the ring and to do the worm. I was like, all right, cool. And then I picked a kid and they got luckily, Scotty Too Hottie said this because the fact that he told me to go pick a kid to do the worm with him, somebody took a photo of it. So now there's a photo. I got that photo. It's me, Scotty Too Hottie, and that kid. And obviously the kid is doing the worm and I did it before him. But the fact that I have that moment where it's like I did the worm with Scotty Too Hottie, and I literally just told you Scotty Too Hottie's the reason why I wanted to do WWE. What? See, look, you got me. You did
Damn,
me.
damn.
You went, bro. You just opened a
Everybody
memory.
protect Scotty. Make sure Scotty's okay. Because we can't have Ian crying over Scotty.
Oh no, Scotty, please. I can't. You just opened a memory for me, bro. Oh my god, I can't believe that. And I did the worm on Raven, bro. And I covered him too. Scotty Too Hot, he covered. He did the 1, 2, 3. So technically, I defeated Raven, a former NWA world champion, bro. Oh, bro, thank you for opening up that memory. Woo. Man, I'm gonna sleep good tonight. We're gonna end on that note. Any last thing you want to say, bro, before we go?
Nothing else. Just rest in peace to all the wrestlers. Rest in peace to all the ones that passed over the weekend, and condolences go out to the family members that got impacted by these losses. Know that we know Roman had to take those few days off so he could be there for his dad, be there for his uncle, um,
Facts.
and you
Everybody
know,
loves somebody.
if Vince was in charge right now, he would find a way to get somebody to use that as a heat shoot
Oh man,
during
for
the
sure.
storyline.
Not every little real life story happens needs to be added into the wrestling world. Sometimes it's best to keep it separate because that's why we leave our real world to focus on this fantasy, and that's professional wrestling. Leave the real drama at home. So, but like Andre said, RIP to all those great legends and everybody that we have lost this past years. They got loved ones too, and they have people that, love them and they love their family as well. I don't know the proper way of saying it. So, everybody loves somebody, respect everybody, be nice, be kind, and that's it. Two to deuce.